Welcome back to Overtime Fantasy, where we go beyond the whistle to bring you home a fantasy championship. I'm Mike Kinder, and I'm here with Phil Corella. Phil, where are Dan and Tyler?
Riding the lame train on the IR.
Oh, they're on the IR?
Yeah.
Injured reserve?
Yeah, they're on that toot IR style. No, it's just me and Kinder this week, or tonight. We're riding solo.
And it's weird, like we got the mics set up right across from each other, and we're just staring each other's eyes all
I haven't
lovingly.
blinked in like 25 minutes.
Yeah. The fan is going, and you just blinked.
Whatever.
You blinked.
Nobody can prove it.
Nobody can prove it. That's why we're on the radio and not the video.
That's right.
All right.
So what we got here?
Sorry. Tonight we are talking about, we're going to talk about last night's game a little bit.
That's right.
We're going to touch on this Dez Bryant debacle that just went through today. And then we're going to talk about the sits and my kings, the starts and my kings, the sits and your flops. And then, we're not going to do a fantasy stud of the past this week because it's only two of us.
That's right.
All right. So, you want to jump into it? Or you got
yeah, I mean, let's get into it, man. I mean, last night's game was big fantasy producing numbers out there. I mean, if you have Ben Roethlisberger, good on you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You got him in my
Yes,
league. That's nice. Good
and,
for you.
I mean, McCaffrey finally got a rushing touchdown, and he produces well, 2 touchdowns in the air, so that's really good as well.
Yeah, gosh, man. Like, I think he
Juju,
put up, what, 31 points?
31 points, right?
Jeez Louise,
31
man.
points. Antonio Brown produced. Juju produced. I mean, I think even Vance McDonald produced. He had a touchdown as well.
Yeah.
I mean.
And the funny thing is I have, who do I have in our league? I can't even think. The Giants tight end.
Ingram.
I got, Evan Ingram. Sorry, I was blanked real bad there. So I got Ingram in our league, and I really, like, right before the game started, I was like, man, I'd like to pick up Vance McDonald and play him. Mm-hmm. So I looked, and I was like, I just did not have anyone I wanted to drop. I'm holding on to a couple defenses right now just because I like their playoff matchups.
Yeah.
So I really didn't want to drop anybody, so I just like, all right, I'm going to roll with Ingram. And then, like, that first touchdown, like, as soon as he got that touchdown, I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I should have played him. I thought he was going to get another one with the way that the Steelers were rolling, but...
Yeah, I mean, so Ben had 5 touchdown passes last night.
Oh, it was glorious.
Let's see, Antonio Brown had 2.
He had 2.
He had 2, and Juju had a 75-yard on the first couple seconds of the game. So
yeah.
And even the kicker produced. I mean, Boswell had 13 points. So it was an all-around fantasy game last night. Yeah. I mean, the score didn't show it because it was just a slaughter by the Steelers, which I didn't think it would happen. I thought that, these two offenses looked really good going into the game, but Carolina, they must be like either banged up and in desperate need of this bye week coming up or like this extended week that they have.
Yeah.
But Cam looked kind of sluggish yesterday, and the defense, really, Carolina's defense needs to do something because they're about to lose the NFC South quick.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, I mean, there's not much else left to say than good on you if you had anybody start last night.
Right.
I mean, you're off to a really good start.
Almost anybody other than Carolina's defense, Greg Olsen, Devin Funchess, and Cam Newton. Cam Newton still did okay.
Yeah,
he didn't do terrible, but he didn't individually lose you the game. So
right.
You're still in it if you have Cam Newton. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about this Dez Bryant debacle.
Well, I mean, I don't know about you. I don't know how you were feeling about it, but when Dez Bryant signed with the Saints, I said, oh, my God.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a nightmare with Dez Bryant. I mean, I know he has his question marks about him, whatever, but he's Dez Bryant. I mean, he's still an elite receiver in the league. Him and Michael Thomas together with Drew Brees throwing on the ball.
Yeah, that could be dangerous.
That is super scary.
Yeah, and I know he was scooped up. He was the biggest waiver claim this past week, and I know a lot of people were upset that they spent that waiver on him, and he was the type of guy that a lot of people were saving their waiver for.
Right.
And as soon as he come and sign, they started scooping him up, and it's looking pretty ugly. It looks like he probably tore his Achilles. Yeah. I trust those doctors to kind of provide us with that good information. They're normally right when they do
Right.
predict something like this. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be a torn Achilles.
And I'm actually surprised that. I mean, I don't know exactly what happened, if it was, just a drill that it happened in or whatever, but I'm surprised that they didn't kind of work him into playing shape again. They just said, all right, we assume that you've been working out this entire time. Let's go ahead and throw you in on 7-on-7 and, or whatever, and just get after it.
Yeah, and that goes to show you with that long of a break of
What can do.
Yeah, and that's what scares me about Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, thank God. I was like, okay, that's exactly why. Okay, yeah. So, but yeah, Dez Bryant. I mean, it's not looking that great. It's looking like they fear that it's a torn Achilles, and they're doing an MRI. We'll see what happens. But
so, do you think this ends his career? Do you think he's done after this?
I don't. I really don't. Because for one, I mean, the way that things are happening in medical stuff, science. I ain't a doctor, but I mean, if you can come back from an ACL tear within 8 months, I think you can recover from an Achilles tear. I mean, he might not be the same person and the same player, but I think he can still come out of that.
Yeah. So you're looking at what I'm thinking. The earliest that we could see Dez Bryant would be this time next year, because you're looking at Deontay Foreman, who tore his last year around this time, and he's looking to come back this year. Now, with Foreman, he is much younger. Now, I don't know the difference, if there are differences between Achilles tears, like if it could be more severe than the other or what. But in my opinion, this either ends his career or he might have one more year in him, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, which is definitely possible. But I mean, I think that it depends on the player. It depends on the person, because, I mean, when Adrian Peterson tore his ACL and he came back that fast, and then the next year he led the league in rushing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's crazy. I mean, but he's a freak of nature. So, I mean, Deontay Foreman, I really don't know if he was able to come back a lot sooner than they wanted him to, or they might have just been like waiting for him to like get completely healthy where he didn't have any issues at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, where he wouldn't need treatment after every single practice. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think they kind of slowed him into it. Now, I know Kobe Bryant, we talked about this earlier. Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles, and he was back playing the next year, and he was at the age of like 36, 37.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's possible, but it's a little bit more riskier when it's a full contact sport. I get it.
Yeah, that'd be pretty impressive if he's able to make it back.
Yeah, and I hope he does. I like Dez Bryant. I like what he brings to the game. But
I really like his appearance on Hard Knocks, that one episode where he come in and he was just walking through and he's like, "Man, I like what you guys do here."
Yeah.
Like, he seemed to like. It was a different perspective of Dez Bryant than what you get when you see him on the field.
Right.
He's a very intense person. Like, he really loves the game of football.
Absolutely.
And so just to see him walk through there and just be positive the whole time, like, it really put a different light on to Dez Bryant.
Yeah, and not just that, he also like shook everybody's hand and said, "Hi, hey, I'm Dez."
Yeah. Even like the laundry guys,
you know what I'm saying?
Was really cool.
Yeah, like, oh, they know who you are, dude, but you're still. I mean, you're still humble enough to be like, "Hey, I'm like, nice to meet you. I'm Dez."
Yeah, like, that was really cool.
Yeah. But all right, so let's see here, man. Let's get on some of these starts and sits. What do you say?
Yep. Let's do that. So once again, it'll be a start. You do a start, and then we'll do the king.
Okay.
And then we'll go over to the sits.
Sounds good.
And then we'll wrap them all up at the end here. So let's start with the quarterback position. My start is Alex Smith against Tampa Bay. I think, I know he had a bad game last week. I think he can have a bounce-back game. And every quarterback, for the most part, does pretty good against Tampa Bay. So I think he can have a good game this week.
Okay. We'll get back to that guy.
Yeah. We'll get back on that topic later.
All right, my start of the week is Phillip Rivers. I think he has a monster game against the Raiders. The Raiders are just steadily getting rid of their most dominant players on defense. Bruce Irvin's gone, who was their best pass rusher. So I think Phillip Rivers airs it out and does a lot of damage to him this week.
Yeah, and I know quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield, he's going against Atlanta. You know, that's a decent matchup. I just don't really like Baker Mayfield that much. He's had those juicy matchups before and hasn't really produced in them, so I think he's kind of on the back burner now.
I mean, he's been sneaky decent though. He has been putting up like decent numbers. I mean, they're not what we thought it was going to be. You know, especially with the matchups that he has going in, like the worst ranked pass defense. You know, but it's not a terrible play. I think in my mind, it's not a bad one.
Okay,
but there's definitely other quarterbacks you can start out there.
Absolutely.
One other quarterback that I like this week is Carson Wentz against Dallas. I really like it, especially with the addition of Golden Tate.
How do you feel about Nick Mullins this week?
It's hard to tell, man. Nick Mullins going up against last week with the Raiders. Like I said, the Raiders defense really isn't that amazing to me.
Yeah, they got the Giants
going up against the Giants this week. It's I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I mean, he might be the real deal. You never know. He was a 4-year starter in college, so he's played a lot of ball. He knows how to throw it. He broke Brett Favre's record, so
yeah,
I like it. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. See, now I know Chris in our league. He picked up Mullins just because he's got Patrick Mahomes. So this week is a good week to kind of judge if he wants to keep Mullins or if he wants to drop him and try to pick up somebody else for that Week 12 bye for Mahomes. Now, I know Mullins has a bye week next week. Mm-hmm. So if he produces this week and he does really well, he could be a solid pickup. I can't remember who he plays in Week 12, but he could be a very solid pickup for that week. And I know that the matchup is favorable. I just can't remember exactly who it is right now. But that would you would at least know what you have going into that. You would at least know they're playing Tampa Bay that week, so at least
figures.
Yeah, right, right.
It really does.
Yeah, and so like for somebody that owns Patrick Mahomes, and possibly Jared Goff, if you're running with those two quarterbacks, and you need somebody to fill in, Nick Mullins would probably be somebody to pick up, leave on your bench, and see what he can do this week. Let it ride through the bye, because he has the bye next week, and then maybe start him Week 12 if he does good against the Giants.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, anybody going up against Tampa usually has a very solid game.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it'll happen this week, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
Yeah. All right, so just to kind of wrap up our starts, we talked a little bit about Baker Mayfield and a little bit about Nick Mullins. Your start was Phillip Rivers. My start was Alex Smith. And my king is going to be Matt Ryan at Cleveland. And
that's a very smart pick.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt Ryan, everybody was like, oh, he's going to have an off game because he's playing outdoors. I mean, I think with their offense, it doesn't really matter where they play.
Yeah, and that offense is so high-powered, man.
Yeah, and I mean, I know the Redskins' defense is sneaky good. I mean, they're a sleeper type of defense that just added a very good player at the safety position, but I think we really saw what Matt Ryan is about this year. And I mean, you ride the hot hand. I mean, he's averaging 300 yards a game.
Yeah, it's got to be something
ridiculous.
Like that. He's been killing it. So I think he can be the best quarterback. Now, this is minus Ben Roethlisberger, because if I can choose that one, I choose him for this week.
Yeah, I think you would.
But yeah, that is minus Ben Roethlisberger. I think Matt Ryan produces the best.
All right. Well,
what do you got on your sits?
My sit of the week is Alex Smith. All right, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because not only is their number one receiver out for the year, they lost two offensive linemen.
You know what? I forgot all about that.
Understandable.
I can't believe I forgot about that because I've been talking about it all week.
It's watch team backup. I got your back.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So
my start is no longer Alex Smith.
And honestly, with that guy being out, with Paul Richardson being out, and the two linemen, one guy tore his ACL, another guy is out for just this week or maybe a couple weeks, something like that.
Yeah. I think Sheriff tore his pec.
Yeah,
and I can't remember. Didn't Trent Williams get hurt too, or?
Well, he was out last week. I don't know if he's going to be back or not this week.
It's looking ugly. It's the same thing that happened last year.
Right.
They got.
Their O-line was,
and they have a good offensive line.
They do.
That's what's sad. But it seems like every year they're just getting beat up.
Yeah. So with all that being said, I don't like, and even though the matchup it's perfect for that, I just think with how banged up their core position group is, I don't like it this week.
Yeah. And now this is something to not get excited about Tampa Bay's defense this week. Because they're probably going to have a big week this week. And I forgot all about that. I can't believe that. But they're going to have a really big week. They could have a really big week this week.
The potential is there for it to be a shootout type of a game.
Yeah. They could be shutting them down with that many injuries on just one side of the football. They could really shut down Alex Smith and the Redskins, and just make themselves look like studs. Now, if that happens, you don't want to go out there just scooping up the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. You don't want to go out there dropping Alex Smith and dropping people that are playing against Tampa Bay, because this isn't going to happen every week.
Yeah, and I'm picking the Buccaneers to win this game.
Yeah.
And, it's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be a close game, but I think the Buccaneers have enough luck to beat them this week, just with the injuries they got.
Yeah.
The other one that I'm going to be sitting this week is Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton, again, it was a favorable matchup with the Saints. Now, here's a stat, okay? Andy Dalton, without A.J. Green. All right, so A.J. Green missed the final 6 games of the 2016 season, and Dalton averaged just 16.3 fantasy points.
Wow.
Now, without him, and also questionably without John Ross and Azuma and all that, it's just going to be Joe Mixon and Tyler Boyd. And I don't like the matchup of Andy Dalton going against the entire Atlanta Falcons defense with just 2 players. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, he might give you a touchdown and, maybe close to 200 yards, but I think he'll be forcing some passes, and he's going to get a couple of interceptions this week.
Now, you said against the Atlanta Falcons.
No, I mean the Saints. My bad.
Okay.
I said because we just talked about the Falcons. So the Saints, going up against the Saints.
All right, so my sit this week is going to be Matt Stafford going against Chicago.
Man, we say him every single week. It's been bad.
Yeah, but last week's was real bad. And
I think he only got like 9 points last week.
Yeah, it was real bad. And then now getting rid of, I think that was a product of a little bit of the good matchup. Minnesota always plays them tough, and losing Golden Tate. Now, like we said, we had a terrible game last week against Minnesota, and then I don't think this week is going to go very good against a very tough defense. So I think this week you should sit Matt Stafford.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially with the division rival. I mean, the Bears, he's going to be outside in Chicago. I don't really like Matt Stafford at all this year. I mean, even though he's got some good weapons out there at receiver, I think Matt Stafford is just under pressure so much that he forces so many throws. Yeah. So it's I agree with that one.
So, and also I'm setting Derek Carr as well against the Chargers. I'm not really a Derek Carr fan anymore this year.
It's the whole Raiders is just so messed up. It's a messy situation in Oakland.
Yep. So that's another one that I'm setting.
All
right. So to wrap that up, we had I sat Matt Stafford and Derek Carr, and you're sitting Alex Smith and Andy Dalton.
Yep.
Who is your flop?
My flop this week, and just so everybody knows what I do with my flop is I don't say that you sit this person because it's you don't sit your number one players that you draft but whoever had a monstrous game last week is what I base it off of. So Drew Brees this week is going to flop. He's not going to give you what he got last week. And the reason why I'm saying this is the last couple road games he's been on, he's only averaged 12 points. So when he's not at home or in a dome, he's averaging less than 15 points. I think this week they rely heavily on Kamara and Ingram, and they just run it all over him. But don't be surprised if Drew Brees, he'll give you a touchdown or two or whatever, but I don't think the yardage will be there. He'll put up like 100-something yards, and he might have a couple touchdowns in the red zone. But he will not produce – he won't give you like Ben Roethlisberger numbers this week. He won't give you 50 points, 40, 30s. He'll be in like the lower 20s, if that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm predicting.
It'll be a startable amount of numbers, but not outstanding like – people like expect Drew Brees to do.
Exactly. That's my flop for quarterback.
All right, so moving on to running backs. We're going to start with the sits here. I mean,
we're going to start with
this. Okay. I said
you want to start with the sits? Here we go.
All right, so start with the sits.
All right.
I'm all messed up without Dan here.
I know it, man. Yeah. Way to go, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. I hope you're really liking that lane train.
Toot. On that lamer. Potholes everywhere. Cracked rails. All right. My sit of the week is LaShawn McCoy. Surprise, surprise. I don't think LaShawn McCoy will ever start for me ever in this year.
Yeah.
I feel really bad for the guy because I think he's a great talent. Buffalo is destroying his career. LaShawn, if you're listening, which would be really cool, get out now.
LaShawn, if you're listening, just give us a shout out or something.
Shout out, man.
We should hang out.
We should hang out a lot. I like that. That's perfect. That's perfect advice.
Yeah.
My next one is Kerryon Johnson. All
okay,
right?
wow.
I think the Lions' offensive line is going through like just a really like they have to start soul searching or something because the way that they're letting Stafford get beat up and I mean. And the reason why I'm sitting them isn't even based on that. It's because the Bears haven't allowed a rushing touchdown this year yet.
No, I think they did last week. Didn't they last week? I'll look it up while you're talking. Keep talking.
Okay, keep talking. Regardless, if they did, it was like the first one they gave up.
Yeah, because actually I think it was against the quarterback. I can't remember who they played. Yeah, I think it was Peterman. Yeah, Nate Peterman had a rushing touchdown last week.
Nope, and for a running back.
Yeah.
Okay,
Todd Peterson. Peterson.
The Bears have yet to allow a touchdown to a running back, folks.
There you go.
So I don't like it. I don't like Kerryon Johnson this week. So yeah, those are my two sits. So
I totally get that.
And Johnson. I don't like the Lions this week going against the Bears.
Yeah, and that's a tough matchup. It was funny because we were sitting there, and I was sitting next to Dan because he's the one that threw that stat up last week.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just sitting there, and I think right before the snap, he said, how funny would it be if the first rushing touchdown against the Bears this year would be Nate Peterman? So, and then it happened, and we just both went nuts, dude. It was so funny.
Yeah.
All right, so is that all your sits?
Yeah, those are my two sits.
Okay, so my sit, my main one that I want to talk about is Peyton Barber.
Okay.
I know he had a good game a couple weeks ago, but even though like the Falcons ran all over the Washington Redskins last week, I think that they do have a good rushing defense, and they've stopped some pretty big names.
Okay.
And there's a big difference between Peyton Barber and Tevin Coleman, if you ask me. There's also a big difference between the Buccaneers' offensive line and the Falcons' offensive line.
Yeah.
And, like I said, I still have faith in that Washington's run defense. I think that they step it up and they shut them down this week.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think the Buccaneers – I don't think they've had a 100-yard rusher all year.
Yeah. Peyton Barber, I know that one game
he had 82 yards.
Oh, 82?
82 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, the touchdown. Because that was like the week after I dropped him.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, perfect time to drop him. But
and then Blake, shout out Blake.
Right, yeah.
He picks him up and starts him, and he gets the 82 yards. Yeah.
That was terrible. Like, I just couldn't believe that same week he started Ito Smith, and he had a big game that week. And I'm like, Ito Smith and Peyton Barber haven't done anything. He had to pick those up because I think the Saints were on a bye.
Yeah.
So he had to pick and he has every Saints player just about.
Basically.
So he had to pick those guys up, and then he gets a win out of it and remained undefeated up until this guy got him.
Not me.
But,
it was you.
Yeah,
right.
It was me.
Yeah, it wasn't me. Yeah, I put up 136 points last week against him, and he still won.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that was rough. You put up the second most points in the league.
Yeah. But
okay.
yeah, I definitely don't play Peyton Barber.
So the other ones that I'm sitting Derrick Henry, just because of my start. We'll talk about that for some reason.
Derrick Henry, he's honestly, man, I have him in the league, and I think I started him one time.
Yeah. He's almost droppable.
Almost,
if you're sitting out there and like one of the big name people go down this week, like you're dropping Derrick Henry for him, without even a thought. So he's one of my sits because I think Dion Lewis is basically taking the running back role, and there's not enough volume for two running backs to have.
I just don't think Derrick Henry. I don't think he fits in their system.
Yeah,
he really doesn't.
No, not really. And then my other sit would be Doug Martin against the Chargers. I'm sitting I'm pretty much sitting everybody against the Chargers this week, and maybe from here on, like it all depends. Unless they got a real juicy matchup, but that's about it for me.
I mean, I think the only person you start for the Raiders would be Jalen Richard, just because he's the third down, like, passing back, and he'll get, like, the check down catches and stuff. That's the only person I would say start.
So, who are you flopping this week?
Flopping Adrian Peterson.
AP. He's had a solid year.
Surprisingly.
Like, so surprisingly. Like,
and it's always against the good matchups, you know what I'm saying? So, and this is a good matchup with the Buccaneers.
Oh, yeah.
So... And it's surprising that the Buccaneers are that sneaky of a good run defense, though.
Yeah.
They're not that bad against the run. It's the pass.
Yeah.
So I think with the two banged-up linemen that they have that are out this week for the Redskins, I think the Buccaneers stand to kind of hold AP in check a little bit. I still think he'll give you a touchdown in the red zones. I think the field position is going to be the real factor in this whole game. I think the Bucs are going to struggle against their defense, and they're going to put the Redskins in a good scoring position to give AP at least a red zone touchdown or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't sit him. I just think that he won't produce as well as he's been doing. That's all.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. With that offensive line.
Yeah, because you can't sit him against the Buccaneers. You just can't do that.
Yeah.
So, but will he produce the way you think he's going to? I don't agree.
Okay. Yep. All right. So moving on to our starts.
Yeah, let's do that now.
Yeah, let's do that. All right. So running back start for me. We talked a little bit about him just a second ago.
That's right.
I am starting Dion Lewis against New England.
All right.
And they are at home against New England. He's basically taken over the majority of the snaps, like I've already said.
Correct.
And he's also still the pass-catching back. Mm-hmm. So that's just saying he's getting a majority of that backfield.
Yeah.
And, to take over the carries is a big thing for him because, you would have thought that it would have been Derrick Henry taking the carries and him being the third down pass-catching back. But it's kind of changed roles where he's just basically taking over the entire backfield.
Yeah, exactly.
And New England is actually a pretty good matchup, and this will kind of help me roll into my next start. With Aaron Jones, he played New England last week, and he had 85 yards total. I think 75 rushing and 10 receiving.
Yeah.
And, so I think Dion Lewis can do something very similar to that and maybe add a touchdown.
Yeah, and I really like the way he's been running lately.
He looks good out
against
there.
the Rams and against the Patriots. I think he's definitely the go-to in Green Bay. Now, how much they'll use him against Miami? I think they're going against Miami. Right?
Yeah.
Against Miami, we'll see what happens because they might be,
And that's Aaron Jones, and I think he'd be a decent start against Miami. If you're wondering who to put in your flex, I think he'd be a good option.
Yeah. And
then my other start would be Tevin Coleman against Cleveland. I think you stockpile all your Atlanta players and you play them all against Cleveland because somebody's getting some points there.
Absolutely. And also to touch on it real quick, Dion Lewis going against the Patriots. That's the team he was on last year. So I think he's going to feel a little revenge coming at it. So
absolutely,
I like those starts. I do. I'm going with Duke Johnson to start this week.
That's a good.
I
That's a
think
good
for
start.
a good flex play or RB2, just because the Cleveland Browns. Sorry, Kinder, but the Browns are going to be down in this game, and they're going to need receiving back. And I think Duke Johnson showed out last week, and I think he'll do it again this week. But it won't be like we're trying to win the game type thing. It'll be like we're trying to keep it close.
Yeah, I think a lot of that Duke Johnson performance from last week come from the new offensive coordinator.
I agree.
And I think they're going to roll with him, and I think he's going to be a good start from here on out.
Yep. And my other one is Elijah McGuire. He had 13 more snaps than Crowell. It's like he picked up exactly where Balil Powell left off.
Oh, yeah.
So, and, I mean, this is a guy, again, he's a 4-year college back. I mean, he knows, he's played a lot of ball. He's quick. He's shifty. Actually, shout out Louis Corella for getting him strong to play in the NFL.
That's right. That's right. Shout out to old Lou up there with the Buffalo Bobs.
Yeah, the Buffalo Bobs. They're 8-1 now.
8-1,
so
dude.
Good on you, Buffalo.
Like they set the school record.
That's right.
For wins. Like they are just dominating, man. I know they're just having a blast.
Oh yeah,
I know.
So definitely good on you. I think Elijah McGuire has a solid game. Definitely somebody to plug in there to give you some points.
Do you have anyone else?
That's it. So Kinder, who is your king?
I forgot about that.
You did. And so did I.
So before we jump into my king, we're going to wrap up a little bit of what we had as our starts. Okay. I had Dion Lewis, Aaron Jones, and Tevin Coleman, and you had Duke Johnson and Elijah McGuire. So my king is going to be Saquon Barkley against San Francisco.
I like it.
Yeah, I think he's got a good matchup. He's a heck of a talent. I think with him and Odell, it's a toss-up of who's the best person on that team. And
I'm in trouble this week.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You got Chris. Oh,
because Scrolls, shout out, buddy. I hope for the podcast reasons, I hope you're 100% correct.
yeah.
But
you still deep down,
fantasy-wise, I'm hoping that he gets like two points.
Now, you're playing Chris.
Yeah.
You scored 31 points with Christian McCaffrey last night, which
Saquon gets 32.
He basically doubled his projection, and you're still projected to lose by 2.
Makes me feel like I don't know what I'm doing.
Now I think Chris just has that good of a team, man. Like his team looks great this year.
Yep, and Alex Collins is on a bye. Let's see, DeAndre Hopkins is on a bye.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, you're kind of hurt.
It's a little hurt, but I don't think
he's got.
I think if one of them does anything, I think it will be Saquon. Now I think Odell has the capability of definitely getting a touchdown and and all that because it's 49ers defense, but I'm hoping otherwise.
We'll see.
So yeah, but I like that because Barkley, like we said, we keep saying it every single week. He is a freak of nature. He's an amazing talent.
Yes, he is.
And I mean, I don't know if you saw it or not, but did you see Adrian Peterson give him like a lot of praise after the game?
Yeah, I did see that.
That was really cool.
That is cool.
That was like passing the torch in a way.
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
Pretty cool.
All right, so let's keep on this start train to get back on focus here.
Yeah. All right, so who you got starting at receiver?
At wide receiver, I have Tyler Boyd versus New Orleans Saints. I think with A.J. Green not being there, he's going to be the primary target. And I know like a lot of times that it is a scary situation when you have a number 2 stepping into a number 1 role, but I think he can handle that. I think Tyler Boyd can handle that role. So he's kind of stepped into that role a little bit. Like he's had a lot of production,
right? I mean, this has definitely been his breakout year. Yeah, I mean, the last 2 years, I think this is his 3rd year. So the last 2 years, he's been really quiet, and he was like the hype for him coming out of college was crazy because I mean, he won like all the receiving awards for the ACC and stuff like that, and he was a big target.
Yeah.
So for him to not produce those first 2 years, I'm actually glad that he stepped it up.
Yeah. He's looking good this year, and I think he can step into that role and do well with it.
Okay.
My other start would be Josh Gordon against Tennessee. He's just been getting used a little bit more every week, and I think he can be a very solid start this week.
Yeah, he's definitely getting more comfortable in that offense. I mean, he's learning the plays. He's learning how to gel with Tom Brady, which is scary.
Yeah, that is scary.
I mean, it kind of seems a little bit like it feels a little bit like Brady to Moss in a way, that it could come out to be something like that, just because of how much of a freak that Gordon is. So yeah, I definitely like that play.
All right, so who do you have starting at wide receiver?
All right, my start of the week is Marquez Valdes-Scantling. The hyphenated names.
Yeah.
For Green Bay, going up against Miami, with Geronimo Allison being out on the IR and Randall Cobb being like kind of shaken up and stuff like that. Scantling is a burner. I mean, he's one of the guys that's very fast. He's a big physical receiver, and I think him and Aaron Rodgers will get a good connection going into this week.
So, like, just to add on to that a little bit, I totally agree. Every time Geronimo Allison is out, Scantling has a phenomenal game. Right. Like last week, he put up 100 yards, 101 yards on 3 catches.
Yep, it's a quiet. I mean, he puts up quiet numbers because it's like, okay, he had a big catch. 2 quarters later, he has another huge catch.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's right there. That alone is probably 10, 11 points.
Right.
And then if you just add in a touchdown on that, like he's looking at 16 points. He's looking at like a big numbers there as a wide receiver that most people, well, probably everybody got off of free agency.
Right. And honestly, he kind of reminds me of Devontae Adams in a way from when Devontae Adams started out, because it was Greg Jennings and it was Greg Jennings, and then Devontae Adams was like kind of sneaking his little targets in here and there.
Yeah.
And Aaron Rodgers was even telling him, like, this guy is an amazing talent. We just got to get on the same page. And I think he's starting to with this guy.
Yeah.
My other one is Golden Tate. Now, his first game with Philly, it's a sneaky play for me, but I think he's had a week to get on the same page with Carson Wentz. And I think, he'll kind of have the same type of a game as Amari Cooper that did with the Cowboys. I mean, the first week he has a touchdown, a couple,
Yeah, they have to prove, the Eagles have to prove that
why they got him. So
this is why we picked this guy up.
So I like him this week and going up against Dallas, and I like my third one, which is like probably my favorite going on this week, is Tyrell Williams going up against the Raiders. I like all the receivers going up against the Raiders this week, but I think him being the more vertical deep threat and the burner, I think him and Phillip Rivers connect.
Yeah,
at least for 2 touchdowns this week.
And Tyrell Williams has had like a touchdown in the last few games too, so he's getting looked at there in the red zone. So I like that as well.
Yep.
All right, so moving on to my king.
Yeah, Kinder, who is your king?
Julio Jones going against Cleveland.
Do you think he gets a touchdown?
I think he does. And the funny thing is we talked about it last week at Jay's house. Last week was the first time that we didn't say that Julio was going to get a touchdown.
Yeah, and we're like, now because we didn't say it, he's going to get one.
And he did. And
so because we just jinx him right now?
I think we did. I think we just jinxed Julio. Like, I think he's going to figure out who's jinxing him, and we're going to get our first negative comment, which will also be our first comment. So
please do. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah. I mean, negative, positive, I don't care. I want to hear some comments. Like,
yeah, I agree.
That's when when you've made it, when you just have nonstop haters out there just talking trash about you.
And honestly, I got to shout him again. So Louis, my brother, he said one of his little videos went viral, him walking over the players that were squatting with the plates on and stuff. That. And he got a lot of backlash for it, and he also got a lot of praise for it. Like, yo, that's awesome. Like, that's crazy. But then it was also like, just so many negative comments. Like, you could easily like break this guy's leg. Like, my brother weighs 170 pounds. These are offensive linemen that weigh 300 plus.
Yeah.
But he's like, I said, Lou, man, doesn't it make you a little mad that you're getting all this negative hate? He goes, that's when you know you made it, bro.
That's it.
When they start hating on you, that's when you know you made it.
That's
I was like, wow.
Truth.
Okay.
That's the truth. I mean, we've been shouting out Chris Scarola.
Yeah.
This whole podcast, but he was on that Barstool Sports.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Instagram page when he dressed up as Squints.
Right.
And just everybody was like, "Oh, we wore it better." Like, and they were like calling him names and everything, saying like, "Oh, millennials don't know anything about the Sandlot." And I'm like, "What?" Like, this dude like eats, sleeps, and breathes the Sandlot.
Yeah, like that's what he does. So
so
it's crazy. Yeah. So shout out Scrolls for making it, bro.
Yeah. He's made it. Like he is 100% famous now.
You did it. You did it.
But yeah, so so just to wrap that up real fast, my start was Tyler Boyd and Josh Gordon. Your starts were Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Can we just call him MVS?
MVS, yeah, but I always get that like mixed up, and I always like MSV, and I all kinds of crazy stuff.
Okay.
So MVS, and then Golden Tate and Tyrell Williams, and then my king was Julio Jones.
It's a good king.
So what do you have for your sits?
All right, I'm gonna start out with Corey Davis. He had a pretty solid game last week. I don't think it transfers over to New England. I think he'll be matched up with Stephon Gilmore, who is like we talked about last week, he's a feisty corner, and he doesn't give up a lot of stuff. So I expect Corey Davis to have a sit type of a week with just a tough matchup. My next one is T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton going against the Jaguars. Now, they had a bye week, and I think I hope the Jaguars actually shaked up their defense a little bit to be prepared for them.
Absolutely.
I think Jalen Ramsey will start to look like the old Jalen Ramsey of last year this week, and T.Y. has just a tough matchup. That's what I think.
Yeah.
And I see you do too.
Yeah,
you like that. Shout out Kirk Cousins. And my next one is Kenny Galladay. I think the targets are going to be going to Marvin Jones. I like Marvin Jones this week. I don't really like the Lions like we talked about earlier, but I do like Marvin Jones more than Kenny Galladay. And I think he'll be, because since he's the number one target, I think the Bears just kind of, it's easier to double cover somebody without Golden Tate there. So I think they'll take him out of the picture.
Yeah. All right, and so just to touch a little bit more onto your T.Y. Hilton, he was my set as well, and that's mainly because like even the last 2 weeks he's had some fantasy production, but they've been very touchdown dependent. I think that 1 week he only had like 40 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, well, and that's the first week he was back, it was like a 2-yard touchdown. Yeah, it was really short.
Yeah, and that's not normally the type of games that T.Y. Hilton. He's usually that burner, and he hasn't had that yet. And I think Ramsey's going to be on him. I think that's going to really shut him down a little bit this week.
It's a division game too, so it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, and my other one would be Jordy Nelson versus the Chargers. Like I said, I'm basically sitting everybody that plays for the Oakland Raiders this week, and Jordy Nelson is no exception to that.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so Phil.
Yeah.
Who is your sit?
My sit. Tyler Boyd.
I said sit. I meant flop.
All right. My flop is Tyler Boyd.
Tyler Boyd.
All right. I know we talked about him being the number one target in Cincinnati, which I agree with. It's a good matchup for fantasy-wise usually. I don't like Andy Dalton this week. I don't think he feels safe enough to throw Tyler Boyd the ball the way he does with A.J. Green. And with John Ross being, shaky, not healthy, and then you got the tight end not healthy. I think they're gonna rely heavily on the run some more this week with Joe Mixon. I think he's gonna have a big week. Tyler Boyd, I mean, he could get you that red zone touchdown or whatever, but I don't think he will be producing the way everybody thinks he's going to because he's the number one receiver. He hasn't been the number one receiver for Cincinnati yet. He hasn't been their lead receiver yet for the whole team. So, I mean, he's getting there. I think he's a great talent. He's going to be a good one in this league. I just don't think he's capable of holding down a team this week or this year. I just don't see it.
Yeah,
So
I see where I definitely see where you're coming from.
Like I said,
you
don't sit this guy because he has a favorable matchup, and in fantasy, that's what it really counts on. But will he produce the way that everybody on ESPN and at all the fantasy gurus out there think he's going to? I don't see it happening. So be kind of skeptical on Tyler Boyd a little bit.
All right, so moving on real fast, I see that you don't have a start for tight end up there.
I mean, honestly, with your tight ends, to me, it's hard to sit any of them. I mean, you don't know if you don't have Travis Kelce and you don't have Zach Ertz, or even Hooper.
Even if you're sitting there with Gronk, like you're scared.
You're scared. You don't know if you can start him or not. I mean, I just don't like sitting any tight ends this year. It's tough.
I get that as well. But one tight end that really stood out to me was Ben Watson.
Right.
Mainly for, you have him in our league, and it's, mainly because of what he did last week. He had 60 yards and a touchdown. Even if you took the touchdown away, 6.2 points is fairly decent for a tight end.
And he's been doing that this year, surprisingly. He's been putting up at least 4 points a week. Yeah, so, I mean, you can't... those are good points for tight ends.
When you don't have that solid tight end, like an O.J. Howard or someone like that, like you're okay with that.
Right.
You're okay with 5 points a game. Like if you can get 5 points out of a tight end that you're just streaming every week, you're kind of happy. You're really hoping to, swing for the fences and get, 15 points out of them. Yeah. And somebody that can do that is Ben Watson.
Yeah, I think maybe my start would be George Kittle. Yeah. I really like this guy, man.
Yeah, he's been great.
I mean, because he really cares about your fantasy team. Like he said it a couple weeks ago. He's like, man, I really need to perform better for my fantasy stats. So he's really trying to be out there to produce. He wants to get you that touchdown if he's up big. He doesn't care. He wants to get fantasy points, and I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
So I do have a king for the tight end.
Yeah,
and it's not
Kelce.
Yeah, it actually is Travis Kelce.
It better be.
Yeah, Travis Kelce going against Arizona this week. I think he has a monster game. Mm-hmm. I think he ends the game with the number one fantasy performance this week.
Okay.
So you want to talk about some defenses, some possible streaming defenses, or somebody that you think you can start this week?
Somebody that I think you can start this week is the Saints defense. They're out there, and I think with, like we talked about earlier, with AJ Green not being there and them being a little banged up, it could be a sneaky play for you.
Yeah.
So I like streaming them this week.
I think you can probably start either the Giants or the San Francisco 49ers.
Right.
I think they're both startable defenses. You have the Jets playing the Bills. I think both of those are startable defenses. If New England's out there, they're playing Tennessee. I think they can.
I think even Tennessee could be a sneaky play, man.
Against New England.
I think they could.
I go against trying to play a defense against Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes.
I know.
Yeah, I just go against that.
I mean, this is what I'm thinking because I just thought of it. With Malcolm Butler going back to New England, he's going to be, wanting to prove something.
Yeah.
And I mean, their corners are decent. They played really well. They played on Monday night.
Yeah.
They played last Monday, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So they played against Dallas. They played Dallas really strong. They held Zeke in check. They did give up a little bit of a long touchdown pass, but I mean, I think that they can be a sneaky start.
Yeah.
If you have no options available, I mean, I think they could be decent.
Yeah, and then you also have Kansas City playing Arizona. Kansas City gives up a lot of points, but it's also Arizona. They haven't been putting up a lot of points this year.
Right.
Indianapolis is playing Jacksonville. The quarterback situation there. This could be a couple interceptions for them.
Even Tampa. I mean,
Tampa playing Washington.
I think if it's any week to start Tampa's defense, it could possibly be this week.
Yeah, you definitely pick them up and play them in DFS.
Right. In DFS, they could be a good sneaky play for you.
Yeah. And when we say DFS, for people that don't know, and I know most people do know, that's daily fantasy sports. That's your FanDuel, your DraftKings, stuff like that.
Yeah, usually our expert is here, but he's on that lame train right now.
He's on the what?
He's on a lame train. Toot toot. He's got his head out the window going 1,000 miles an hour, just taking all the bugs in the face.
That train, there's no way that train goes 1,000 miles an hour with that many potholes.
You have not seen this crazy train. You have not seen it.
All right, so my king at the defense is the Jets versus the Bills. I think that's pretty much a given week in and week out. You got anything else?
I kind of like the Packers to start.
Packers, okay.
Against the Dolphins. I like that.
And also going into the final couple weeks of the season, if you're already looking good for the playoffs, pick up your Denver. Denver has a solid 3-game run in the playoffs. Pick up Carolina. Carolina plays Cleveland in a couple weeks, and they have another good matchup that I can't think of. Pick up Washington. They have a solid matchup for the next few weeks. I'm blanking on the rest of them. There was a few that I had that I wanted to talk about. But yeah, so real quick, Denver plays in week 14, 15, and 16. They play San Francisco, Cleveland, and then Oakland.
Oh yeah.
And those are your playoff weeks. So look at Denver. Carolina is their matchups here in the next couple weeks. They play Seattle next week. No, they play Detroit next week, Seattle the week after that, Tampa Bay, and then Cleveland. So Cleveland is week 14. So I have both of those. I have Carolina and Denver. Okay. So I'm going to be able to play against Cleveland in week 13. No, against Cleveland in week 14 and 15.
Right.
So that's something you want to look at from here going out is what defense can you pick up to play against the Bills, to play against the Jets, to play against the Browns? Like you want to play those defenses going into the playoffs because those are the defenses that score the most points.
Yeah, and stay tuned. Like, be sure to check us out on our social media pages and stuff like that because we will have those. We'll be posting stuff like that for you to keep an eye out to strategy for the playoffs as far as who to pick up, who to have an eye on.
Yeah.
We'll be posting stuff on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Yeah, and we'll definitely have to do here probably next week. We'll definitely do
we'll touch
just
on
playoffs podcast, like
right.
what to look forward to when it comes to the playoffs, how to strategize for the playoffs, everything like that. So
even how to get into the playoffs. We're here to help you.
How to get into it. Yeah, and so when he talked about our social media, we are on Twitter at Fantasy Overtime. We're on Instagram at Overtime Fantasy, and our Facebook page is Overtime Fantasy. So please like us, follow us, share everything.
Tell your friends.
Don't be greedy with this information. Let everybody else know about it. That's what we're here for. We're here to give the information to the world. And then when we make it big, when people are hating on us, that's when you make it big.
That's when you know it, right?
Then you can get greedy. But right now, we need your help.
We need your help, guys. We need your support, and we appreciate all the support that we've gotten from everybody. Thanks for listening, and I hope you guys do well this week, and I hope you guys really got some good information.
Just a quick shout-out to Mr. Russo and Mr. Vega.
Seriously.
They are the ones that are on our Facebook Live every week, and they just kill it for us.
Yeah,
so,
shout out to you guys, man.
Yeah, I hope you guys have listened to the end of this so you guys can hear that shout-out. But we appreciate you guys a lot. You're two people that we don't know. You come in every week. You ask us questions on Sunday during our Facebook Live, which also is on Sunday at 11:45. So make sure you tune in. You got anything else, Phil?
Shout out Brian Shalamian, my boy.
Shout out Josh Williams.
I hope you got home safe from that cruise, and you had a great time.
I hope
you didn't have that great of a time because we didn't go. So,
yeah.
But yeah,
I hope Luke Elmore's still alive. So
yeah, I really hope he is too. Yeah,
Alfred and Mimi are really missing him right now. All right, so that's all we have. Thanks for listening.